we're all disappointed. We know that what this game means to so many people, and so to come up short is certainly crushing.
Folks, is it time for the Ohio State Buckeyes to fire head coach Ryan Day? This is obviously a big point of contention and debate in our sport right now. A lot of Buckeye fans are not happy after 3 straight, frankly, embarrassing, inexcusable losses to the Michigan Wolverines. And we're going to talk about that all here today because I think there's a lot to say about this that some people are not considering. But before we get into that, ladies and gentlemen, I do obviously want to point out this is our first ever video on this channel. I'm starting a new channel dedicated to the greatest sport on earth, which is obviously college football. So folks, if you're new to the channel, whether you're finding me from my other channels or you're just finding this in the algorithm, be sure to subscribe for grassroots organic college football content. We're going to be doing a couple of videos a week on this channel to start off. If it is successful and popular, we may turn it into a live podcast or something. So if you want to see that, if you want to see how this all goes, folks, again, be sure to subscribe. So with that said, let's take the temperature and kind of discuss, and I'll sort of just break down how I feel about all of this, okay? And to really just go right at this issue, I think a lot of you guys who are calling to fire Ryan Day need to step back and have a little bit of perspective. And before I get into that, let me say first and foremost, I know what you're going to say. I understand the expectation at Ohio State, right? Because when non-Ohio State fans, when commentators come and try to say this stuff, every single time you hear the same thing from Buckeye fans. You don't get it, okay? You don't get how much the rivalry means up north. You cannot lose 3 straight years at Michigan to Michigan. You don't understand the expectation of Ohio State. You know, it's different from other programs, blah, 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 this and that. So let me say, I fully do understand the expectation. There is not a single excuse if you are an Ohio State coach to be losing 3 straight years to Michigan. I understand it is inexcusable. I understand it is disgraceful and frankly, a crime against humanity in Columbus. I get the culture. I get the rivalry. I understand all of that. Okay. But I think it's also still important to point out, folks, again, big picture, because if you're going to fire a coach, I think you also need to look at the big picture. You need to look at past trajectory, future trajectory, where are you headed, what's the overall body of work. And I understand a lot of Ohio State fans will say, but you don't get it. It's a 1-game season for us. The game, the rivalry. Again, I understand that, okay? But you still, to some degree, have to have perspective, right? And the perspective is that, folks, Ryan Day is 56-7 so far as a head coach. 3 of those 7 losses are to Michigan. 3 of them are in the college football playoff, and only 1 is to Oregon in a non-conference game. Okay? So what does that mean? That means outside of Michigan in the postseason, in the playoff, and 1 is a national title game itself, which again, it's pretty good. I don't care who you are. It's pretty good that you got there, right? Ryan Day has never lost outside of Michigan, never lost a conference game in the Big Ten, and only lost 1 entire game in any regular season outside of the games to Michigan. That is really good, all right? Like, again, you can make all the excuses. Oh, Ohio State's supposed to do that. Oh, Urban Meyer handed him a great situation. It doesn't matter. That is still really good. And again, I'm not excusing the losses, but I also think that a lot of people in this sport, especially Buckeye fans who, you know, I'm going to say it, have been kind of spoiled the last entire 21st century because you've never really had a truly bad season, right? They've been few and far between. A lot of people do not appreciate how much it actually takes to win. To even win in this sport, the games you are supposed to win, okay? Because you see a lot of times, Buckeye fans, I mean, look around you. A lot of times in this sport, how many times does it happen every week, every season, where blue blood programs that seem to be headed in the right direction, top 10 teams or whatever, go on the road to some unranked team, get upset? It is a staple of college football. It is a very common thing in this sport. And so again, not saying Ryan Day does not have work to do, but I don't think you can simply write off the fact that he's never, outside of Michigan, he's only lost 1 entire regular season game, never lost another game in the Big Ten. you cannot ignore that. You cannot write that off. And I get it again. The Ohio State fans would respond, well, we're supposed to win those games, Vince. We're Ohio State. Obviously, we're supposed to beat, I don't know, Iowa, Purdue, Indiana, Notre Dame, all these different teams. And I do understand that. But I also need to point out that even if Ohio State has had pretty good seasons for this whole century, winning is not guaranteed in this sport. Okay? And I don't think people appreciate how hard it is to truly get a team up every week, even against inferior competition, and go out there and win the game. Okay? A lot of teams, even with decent coaches, will have an 11-win season. Next year, they go 8-4, then 10, then 9. Ryan Day's never done that. Every single year, he's winning at least 11 games. Okay? And that is really impressive. And I don't think that people give that enough credit. Right? Again, I'm not saying he does not have elevation to do, but to just write that off or to say any head coach could do that, absolutely not. I don't care even if Urban Meyer handed another head coach a position. There is absolutely no guarantee of even 10, 11 wins every year. And yet Ryan Day consistently has been able to deliver you that. Again, I'm not saying he's exactly where we need to be right now, but that needs to be appreciated. And let me say this to people who say, nope, 11 wins is not enough. We need 12. We need 13. Okay, I get that. But who is to say the grass will actually be greener on the other side? Because sure, in theory, the next coach you get could take you from the 11-1 to the 12-0 and you're beating Michigan every year. I don't know who that coach would be, truthfully, because unless you're going to bring back Urban Meyer, which is not happening, I don't really see a head coach out there where I look and I kind of feel guaranteed he could come in and immediately be better than Ryan Day. It's possible, but you're taking a gamble. And it is honestly entirely possible and perhaps likely that any replacement you bring in to replace Ryan Day not only doesn't take you from 11-1 to 12-0, but could take you backwards, right? You're still losing to Michigan. But again, there's no guarantee another coach might not also have you losing to Penn State and the random road game to Iowa or Illinois or Indiana or whatever, or one of the Pac-12 teams now coming in, right? Again, winning is not guaranteed in this sport. And any coach who can get you consistently 11 wins a year, again, I'm not saying he's immune from criticism, but the idea that it's just a good idea to get rid of a guy who is 56-7 as a head coach, again, I think is a symptom of a fan base who has been spoiled quite a bit in the 21st century. Because when you look at other blue bloods, right? Think about USC. The sort of your equals, quote unquote, you would say in the sport, right? USC, Texas, Miami, Florida, Michigan, even Alabama before Nick Saban, right? The track record of success Ohio State's had under their past couple coaches, that kind of just, even if you're not winning national titles every season, that sort of consistent stream of success, that is not guaranteed in the sport. It is not guaranteed if you move on from this coach, you will continue that, okay? So again, this needs to be taken into account, all right? So to answer that question, no, I do not think Ohio State should be firing Ryan Day. I think that would be a catastrophically dangerous and awful decision to replace a guy who is 56-7 as a head coach. And here's the other thing I would say, is that there is no guarantee that Ryan Day keeps this sort of flat line of not being able to beat Michigan and elevate and win a national title forever, right? Because I think it's important to understand Ryan Day is still a young head coach. Okay, and he's not been a head coach before, to my knowledge. I don't think he has, right? And he's still figuring out the ropes here. And I truly do believe, I'm not guaranteeing it, but I do believe, I have faith that if you give him enough head time as a coach, he will figure it out. And a big comparison I would make here is Kirby Smart. Right, think about Kirby Smart. People forget it now, and now we have a lot of revisionist history because he now kind of is in the middle of the next dynasty and he's on top of the world, and so people pretend, oh, we never doubted Kirby Smart. Oh, we always knew, yeah, Nick Saban's defensive coordinator, he was gonna be great at Georgia. But But think back and actually remember what the conversation used to be around Kirby Smart from about 2017 to 2021, or actually 2022, January, where he finally won his first national title. What was the conversation around Kirby Smart? It actually sounded very similar to the conversation around Ryan Day, and I would even make the comparisons. Hey, Kirby Smart, former assistant to an all-time legend head coach Nick Saban. Ryan Day, former assistant to an all-time head coach Urban Meyer, both very young guys. Very similar positions here when you actually think about it. What was the conversation around Kirby Smart? What did that used to be? It was, yeah, he's getting 11, 12 wins a year. Definitely not bad, but he can't beat Alabama. He won't stop choking in the college football playoff or the SEC championship, right? That was the conversation. And by the time, 2020, 2021, even that SEC championship, the narrative around Georgia football, what was it? It was that Alabama owned them. You get 11 wins every year, but you can't beat Alabama every time you choke or you do something. You just can't get over Alabama. And then what happened, right? Time happened. Kirby Smart matures a little bit more as a coach. Truthfully, I think he would tell you he probably learned some important lessons between 2017 or so and then 2021. It takes time to build a program and figure things out, especially your first time as a head coach. So 2021, we come around. Georgia fans were smart to give him enough patience. He builds up a good team. Also, truthfully, gets a little bit lucky that Alabama has a slightly down year in 2021. And then what do you know? Wins a national title. Next thing you know, the avalanche starts rolling. He wins another one, might win a third straight one this year. And now nobody remembers the conversation that happened in the late 2010s about Kirby Smart that sounded very similar to Ryan Day. Why? Because you gave a young head coach who clearly was on the right trajectory the time to figure things out. And eventually, if you have enough 11, 12 win seasons, you roll the dice. Statistically, it's very likely one of those you'll hit the perfect time, perfect year, win the national title. And that's exactly what happened. And by the way, on the flip side of that, who is to say that Michigan, who is currently, yes, dominating you and they're on their run, they're having their little window of success here, who is to say that they're good forever? That they stay this good forever, right? Because then I will draw back to the Kirby Smart example. Think about Alabama in the late 2010s, where they seemed invincible and Georgia just seemed like no matter what they threw at Alabama, they couldn't do it, right? And then what happened? Naturally, as always happens in this sport, it is hard to maintain success for a very long time. It's hard to stay on top, right? Because players come and go, coaches come and go. This is all to say, even if Harbaugh is having his quote-unquote moment right now, there's no guarantee that 2-3 years from now, first of all, there's no guarantee he'll even be the head coach next season, right? And even if he is, there's no guarantee, when you have different quarterbacks, different players, different coaches, they may take a slight dip off, and the next thing you know, 2 years from now, they're having a 9 to 10 win season instead of a 12 win season. And at that point, right, the waiting game may be just enough and Ryan Day learning a little more, where next thing you know, the roles have reversed and now Ryan Day is owning Michigan for the next couple of years, okay? But what you don't want to do, and this is my big thing why please do not fire Ryan Day, Ohio State, what you don't want to do is have a guy who clearly is on a good foundation and clearly, like I said, give it a little time. I think he's likely to elevate and do what everyone wants him to do, to potentially tear that all down and take a big risk, a big gamble on some head coach who, sure, might be a little better than Ryan Day, but also could be far worse and have Ohio State going 8-4, 7-5, which again sounds impossible because of the track record of Ohio State the past couple of decades here, but is totally possible. So this is all to conclude here, folks. The verdict for me on Ryan Day, does he certainly have a lot of work to do? Yes. Does he have a lot to improve and learn as a head coach? Yes. Personally, I think much like Kirby Smart in the late 2010s, he seems on the track record to do it. But should Ohio State fire him now after a record of 56-7? Absolutely not. I think it is an insane, ridiculous idea. Obviously, I understand that there's competitive pressure on him, and there should be. But should Ohio State fire Ryan Day? Absolutely not. Frankly, I think Buckeye fans who are calling for that are spoiled and ridiculous. And, again, like I said, do not understand how hard it is to actually win in this sport, and don't understand that winning is not guaranteed, even if you are the Ohio State University. So with that said, folks, let me know what you think about all this in the comments section down below. Be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to Vince Dallas Sports, and we'll be seeing you next time. Until then, see you guys later. God bless and peace.